Yo, what's up YouTube? Welcome back to Tay TV. In my video, I'm reacting to this video of this woman that's saying she went from $10 an hour. She used to work at Costco and she built an Airbnb empire. This just intrigued me, so let's get into it. It's my first time watching this.
Men for £10 an hour. She'd leave at 9 p.m, stay awake all night doing physical labor while everyone else was getting a peaceful night's sleep. She'd then finish and come home at 6 a.m, wake my little sister up for school, then home at 9 a.m. to sleep
She's
for
a baddie,
just
y'all.
5 hours.
I can
She'd
tell
then
she's
wake up
very
at 2
smart.
p.m, do the housework, and then go back
She's
to
very
work
organized. She knows the stuff.
just
And she
to
has a
do
beautiful
it
smile.
all over again the next day. 4 kids and a single mom living in a council house, getting by on benefits. I realized very early on, if I don't change something right now, this will be my life forever. And I realized I was just a few decisions away from changing my life, my mom's, and my future generations. Fast forward 4 years later, I'm 23 years old.
That's right. And I'm glad how she said that, like, if she doesn't change her situation, that she knew she was going to be in the same position forever, and she took the necessary steps to get yourself in a better position. And I want to say, getting yourself in a better position, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not easy. You have to be consistent, you have to be disciplined, and you have to like put the work in and believe in, and you have to believe in yourself no matter what.
I live in a 4-bedroom villa here in Dubai, and I have another countryside house in the UK which I can stay at whenever I want. And last month my business made over £100,000. But the one that I'm proud of the most, I retired my mum at the age of just 22 years old without a single handout. And my mother, the woman who sacrificed everything, never has to work another day in her life. My name's Uzma, and this is the story of how I went from a council house in the UK to building an Airbnb empire that gave me the one thing that I wanted most: the ability to take care of the woman who took care of me. This won't be comfortable to watch, but if you're where I was, trapped, broke, watching your family struggle day by day, then you need to hear this.
That's right. Chapter 1, survival mode.
My story doesn't start in a nice place. It starts in survival mode. I was born in a small city in the UK called Leicester, and my parents migrated from India to the UK to give us a better life. And they were hoping to build something better for themselves and for their children. At the time, my mom was just 19 years old. She was young, vulnerable, and for years she suffered in a toxic relationship and violent household. And when I was just 3 years old, my mom made the bravest decision of her life. She left, and she took me and my 3 siblings to a city called Coventry, just 30 minutes to an hour away. We had absolutely nothing. No money, no phone to tell anyone, no family who could have helped. Literally nothing. And we ended up in a women's hostel, a place for women escaping abusive relationships. And at the time, it was just us 5, myself, my 3 siblings, and my mom, living in one room. Literally one room. There was one bed where my mother, my little sister, and I slept, and my 2 brothers, they shared a small bunk bed. The room only had a wardrobe and a sink. That was it. Those are some of the most vivid childhood memories that I have. Not because they were always happy, but because they were real. At the time, my mum was new to the UK, and so she spoke no English. And she didn't have any qualifications, she had no connections, she had no understanding of how the UK system worked. But there's one thing about my mum, and she does not quit. And in that moment, she refused to give up. A few years later, I had started year one and she had finally secured UK residency and we moved into a council house. My mum then
Okay.
started working to earn some little money, you know, £5 cash in hand, and she was cleaning homes, preparing meals for the elderly, working as a carer. She literally worked any job that she could. She was working relentlessly to keep us alive. And the environment that I grew up in was pure survival. It was about making it through each day. And I was deeply ashamed about it. I hid where I lived, I hid where we shopped, I hid that I was on free school meals and that the school gave me free uniforms and free school trips. At the same time, I also had awareness, this emotional intelligence that most kids my age didn't have. I figured out very early on how bad things really were. I knew my family was broke, and I could see it in my mother's exhausted face. The constant stress, the weight she carried every single day, I saw it all. On weekends, I'd go with my mother to help her with her work. And no, I wasn't getting paid, but I wanted to help her. I wanted to do anything to lighten her workload. Even as a kid, I had that work ethic, that drive to contribute. I was juggling schoolwork. I was helping my mom with her cleaning jobs, taking on responsibilities that most kids my age never had to think about. And this became my normal because someone had to step up.
This is where she's getting ready
Then
to
came the
step
moment
up.
I almost became another statistic. So I finished primary school, I finished my secondary school, and I also completed the equivalent of college. I went to sixth form. And when I was done, at 18 years old, I started working at a well-known warehouse called Costco. I was earning £10 to £11 per hour. Not bad for an 18-year-old, you could say. And at the time, all my friends were going to university. They were all moving forward with their own lives and they were starting new chapters. But I wasn't. The reality was I had no guidance.
She had no guidance at all.
My parents hadn't experienced higher education themselves, but I also wasn't interested in getting a degree because the truth is that from a very young age I had no interest in getting a job and working until 65. I saw what that looked like through my mom, and I wanted to be at the top of the chain, in control of my finances, in control of my work schedule, and most important, financially free. I deeply felt within myself that I was destined to be a business owner. Now, you might think that's pretty ironic given I was working at Costco. I was humbled enough to know that nothing was going to be handed over to me on a silver plate. And I had to work hard and take the stairs step by step. There was only hard work, no shortcuts.
No shortcuts
the plan
whatsoever.
was to save enough so that I could leave and start a business of my own eventually. Now, when you're 18 and you're earning 1 to 2K every single month, it's easy to become complacent, and soon, without you even knowing, you're there for your entire life. But I looked around my colleagues, people who had been there for 10, 20, 30 years, and
she was like, that wasn't going to be her.
Every single one of them wished they had left years ago. They told me that they had stayed for one reason, and that was because the money was good enough for them to keep coming back. So they kept coming back year after year. Costco became their entire life, and that terrified me. It was an hour commute each way every single day. But the worst part, the absolute worst part, was watching my mother. So she was 30 at this point, and she was working night shifts at a warehouse. She was doing physical labor because she still spoke limited English. And to be honest, she was only valuable for the strength in her body. She'd leave for work at 9 p.m. and stay awake all night in the cold, carrying heavy boxes alongside men. Can you imagine your mother working a job that is designed for the strength of men? She was physically and mentally destroying herself. Her body was breaking down, and I realized
Her body was
I
breaking
cannot
down.
accept this. I cannot
That's right.
let this continue. I
That's
cannot let the system trap
mom
me
is
in
a
the very
big
way
trap
it's trapped her and everyone
of her
around me.
veteran, her
I still remember
situation.
the very moment in my mind when my mom had come home one morning from work and she literally sunk into bed with her work clothes still on, with her
Wow.
coat still on, without a blanket. She was
Dang.
honestly exhausted.
You can
And
see
that
it.
was my wake up moment. That was when I decided I have to change this. Not tomorrow, not next year, right now. I knew working for someone else would never get me out. I needed a different path. And the math was simple. If I earned 10 to 11 pounds an hour, even if I worked full time and did overtime for the rest of my life, I would never become financially free. I would never be able to change my family's circumstances. I would work until the day I died, and I would never have enough. I needed to build assets that generated income while I slept. I needed to put my money to work for me, not the other way around. And at the same time, my friend Lena was also exploring investment opportunities. She came across Airbnb and then came to me with the idea. We sat down and made a decision. We're going all in on this together. Now you might be wondering, why Airbnb? Why property? Well, there's several reasons that clicked for me. First, it was real and tangible. This was during a period when everyone around me was investing in Forex, in cryptocurrency, in drop shipping, Amazon FBA. You know, those business models felt like gambling to me. I didn't really understand them. They were volatile, speculative, risky, but property was something I could see, I could touch, and I could understand. You know, it felt real. And second, there was undeniable proof of wealth creation. Successful property investors existed everywhere I looked. I could see the evidence. I could see people who had built wealth through property. It wasn't theoretical, it was proven. And third, we didn't need to own any property to benefit from it. The barrier to entry was low, so even if we couldn't afford to buy property ourselves, we could control them on behalf of landlords and benefit from the cash flow rather than waiting for capital appreciation. We could manage Airbnb listings for property owners and take a percentage of the revenue. It was the perfect model for us. Low capital requirements and high cash flow potential. And to be honest, it aligned with my values. I wanted something stable, something that would create consistent income, something that would allow me to provide for my family. I was 19 years old when I started. No experience, no capital, no connections, but I had clarity and I knew exactly what I needed to do, and I was willing to do whatever it took. Then came the moments that proved I wasn't crazy. My first real breakthrough came when the bookings started rolling in consistently. I started by charging £100 to £200 per night. And the money wasn't life-changing at first, but the principle was everything. I started making money without directly trading my time for it. We were building something of our own, and as we refined our systems, improved our listings, and understood what guests wanted, the bookings increased. We learned how to optimize pricing, we learned how to manage properties efficiently, and we learned how to create exceptional guest experiences. So inevitably the demand grew, and the real breakthrough, the moment when I truly felt that it was real, was when I quit my job after the property. This was the moment of truth. I've been working at my job while building my Airbnb business on the side. It was exhausting. I was working a full-time job and then coming home to manage bookings, respond to guests, coordinate cleanings, but I'd now reached a point where the Airbnb income
was consistent enough where
that
she
I
could
could
be
leave
her
my
own
job.
boss,
I could
which is a
take that
blessing.
leap, and walking away
She
from that
took
job
that leap of
meant I was
faith.
fully committed. It meant I was betting everything on this business, but it also meant that I was financially free. I was no longer trapped in that warehouse, no more long commutes, and no more feeling like a prisoner. Now, after 2 years of relentless work, sacrificing time with my family, and being extremely disciplined with spending and working obsessively, I finally moved out of the council house into my very own 2-bedroom apartment in a brand new neighborhood with my very own private parking. It was my very first taste of freedom, but it was also a bittersweet moment because, to be honest with you all, my mom was devastated to hear that I was moving out, and she was quite angry with me. But that's when I made the big promise to her. In that very moment, before I packed my bags and left, I told her I would retire her in just a few years. And from that point on, I became even more laser focused, and the growth in my business accelerated. I worked day and night, and we added more properties, we generated more income, and we were able to invest in better properties. We were able to charge higher rates and scale the business properly. After just 12 months, we were starting to charge £500 to £600 per night. The business has started to pick up even more, and things were starting to look pretty stable. I could see the growth, and I could feel that it was time for me to make some big decisions. One of the biggest decisions of my life, and that was retiring my mother. At first, I started sending my mother enough money so that she didn't have to work anymore, and she then soon left her job. And that was a huge accomplishment already for me. But it wasn't just about the money for me. I wanted to give her a life she could never dream of. So I moved her out of the council house into a beautiful detached home in a new estate. The kind of place where most people would usually have to have 2 paychecks coming in, a husband and a wife both working. But here it was just me.
Her.
I'm now paying for my Dubai villa, I'm paying for my countryside house in the UK, and I started to pay for my mother's house too. Her bills, her food, her lifestyle expenses, her holidays, everything. You see, this wasn't just about giving her extra money on top of what she could make from a job. This was more money than that job could ever give her. This was a completely different life. But I wasn't sure that I could keep it up, and that terrified me. See, when it's just you can take risks. You can live with the consequences. If you fail and you don't eat properly, you deal with it. It's on you. But when you make that decision for someone else, when you tell your mother, you don't have to work anymore, I'll take care of you, there's literally no going back. The blame would come back at me. You retired me, you took me out of my job, and now I have to live like this because you couldn't keep your promise. In my mind, I kept thinking, what if the business actually fails? What if I can't maintain this?
Don't give up, you gotta keep
Can
going.
I actually do this? And days before I pulled the trigger, I was worried and I was hesitant. The pressure was overwhelming, but I did it anyway. I made the decision, and that's the thing with me. I perform well under pressure. And from that moment on, failure wasn't an option. I had to make it work. There was no plan B.
There was no plan B.
But let's be honest, none of that matters if I can't answer one question. Was it worth it? The sacrifices were real. I gave up time with my family that I'll never get back. I missed out on social events. I missed out on normal experiences that many people my age were having. And I dealt with the financial uncertainty. I carried constant stress and pressure. But when I look at my mother's face now, when I see the peace she has, knowing she never has to work another day
That's
in
right.
her life, every single sacrifice was worth it.
it.
My mother came to the UK from India with absolutely nothing, just hopes and dreams. She escaped an abusive marriage and she built a life for us from scratch. She worked herself to the bone so we could survive. And so I made the choice to give up years of
That's right.
comfort in my teens
She
and
said
my early
failure wasn't going
20s
to
so
happen
she
and
could
she was going to
finally
be
have
successful.
peace. And I literally mean it. She struggled for 45 years, pouring everything into us, her kids. That was 45 years of stress, sleepless nights, and pressure. And she now finally gets to relax and put her feet up. The truth is, what I'm most proud of isn't the money. It's not the properties. It's not living in Dubai or making over £100,000 a month. What I'm most proud of is retiring my mother and taking care of my little sister. I don't talk about this much, and I may never have spoken about it before, but my stepdad left when my sister was just 4 to 5 years old, and he just walked away. So I stepped up. I became the provider. I'm now financially responsible for her.
She became the
house
provider.
bills, groceries, her entire childhood, everything
She has
her
a whole lot
father
of
should have
responsibilities.
been
I'm not
providing.
gonna
I
cap
stepped
to
into a
y'all,
role
but
that men
she
are usually
stepped up
expected
big
to fill.
time.
And I did it because someone had to, because she deserves better than being abandoned. And here's what I need people to understand about money. The people who say money doesn't buy happiness are the same ones begging for it.
Facts.
You can't tell me.
Facts. She said the same people that said money doesn't buy happiness are the same one that's begging for it, and I 100% agree. And I'll say this, having money is good, but you gotta have a relationship with God, because if you don't have a relationship with God, that money means absolutely nothing. Like the word says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and to lose his soul? You gotta have a relationship with like God first, and you have to know how to manage your money. That's a topic for another discussion, because I'll say this, if you don't know how to manage your money, if you're just spending your money any type of way, you could lose it.
Money doesn't buy happiness. When your mom is destroying her body, working night shifts, and you're powerless to help her. You can't tell me money doesn't buy happiness when your little sister deserves the world, but
That's
her father walked away and left her with nothing. For me, money does buy happiness. It buys peace. It buys freedom. It allows me to take care of my family and to give my mom rest after decades of suffering, to give my sister everything she deserves. I don't have to depend on anyone. I don't have to accept the limitations society puts on women. I don't have to wait for a man to step up, because the truth is, money buys power.
Facts.
The power
Money
to
does
protect
buy
your
power.
family, the power to change their lives, the power to break the cycle. That's real happiness. And I took 100% accountability for changing my circumstances and protecting my family. And here's what I need you to understand. Your circumstances don't determine your destiny. Your decisions do. If you're where I was, broke, trapped, watching your family struggle, understand this. There are no excuses. Not your background, not your family situation, not your lack of education, not your lack of capital. None of it matters. What matters is how badly you want this. Are you willing to sacrifice your social life?
That's
Are
right.
you willing to work obsessively while everyone else parties? Are you willing to bet everything on an uncertain outcome? If yes, you can change your life. If not, you'll stay exactly where you are. In
That's
30
right.
years, you'll be like my colleagues at Costco, wishing you had left, wishing you had taken the chance. And I want to be known as someone
This
who tells the
was
truth,
a
someone who
dope
took
video,
care of her
y'all.
family,
This
someone who
woman is very
refused to
like
accept
smart
society's
and
limitations.
she
So
knows
the
her
choice
stuff.
is yours.
Y'all
There are
follow me
no
on my
excuses.
socials
It
and y'all
comes
join my
down to how bad you really
Patreon
want
for
it. So that's my
my
story.
dope
From a
anime
council house
content,
to a
and my
villa in
anime
Dubai and my
content
single mother who can
is
finally rest. But here's
currently
the
free.
part that
Y'all better
matters
take
most.
advantage.
This isn't about me being special. I'm not smarter than you. I'm not luckier than you. I didn't have advantages you don't have. I just made a decision and refused to make excuses. Because the truth is, your background doesn't have to be your destiny. Your mother's struggles don't have to become